Hi guys, thank you for joining me. I'm Dr. Eileen. I'm a pediatrician here in Las Vegas, and every Monday I post an educational session on commonly discussed questions in pediatrics. So last week we covered a little bit about breastfeeding and troubleshooting some of the problems that a lot of new parents run into. This week, following that last topic, is to talk about formulas because breastfeeding can be challenging for a lot of people. So for parents who have elected to do formula feeding, there's so much information, so many choices out there. So I just wanted to give you some words of wisdom to help you guys get started if you are in that point of your life trying to make those decisions. So first things first, formulas have been around for a very long time. In 1980s, all the formulas became more regulated through the Infant Formula Act. And it was amended again in 1986, basically to give it more regulations on the basic minerals and vitamins, nutrients that must be included in every formula to meet standard. And also, all the manufacturers must go through annual inspections. It's highly regulated because the FDA says the formulas is to feed your babies, our children, our future. And they're going to have huge impact on the way our children are going to grow. So this is not something we take lightly. I think formula is one of the most highly regulated products out there. So it has come a long way. I'm going to talk about three things. One is going to about the formulations of formula, how they come in when you look for them on the shelf. Second, we're going to talk about the composition of formulas, what exactly goes into your baby's formula. And lastly, we're going to talk about some of the special formulas that are out there for special considerations in special populations. So there's a lot to go into, so let's get started. Number one, formulations. So formulations now for formula come in three forms. They come in pre-mixed form, so these are liquid ready to use. Second, they come in concentrated liquids, so you have to dilute it with sterile water to give it to the infant. And lastly, they come in powder. Powder are usually found in cans, and they need to be mixed with water. Usually the amount is specified exactly on the can. You should always go as it's being specified. So that's the formulation. Second, I want to talk about composition. What actually goes to the baby formula? So there are the three macronutrients as we know, and that is fat, proteins, and carbohydrates. Fats in baby formulas are generally most of the formula out there, about 75%, uses a lot of vegetable oils, corn oils, safflower oils, sunflower oils, coconut oils to add to create the essential fatty acids that your baby will need when he or she's growing. Secondly, proteins. So proteins are generally most commonly is cow's milk protein. So cow's milk is a mixture of whey and casein, and there's also soy formulas, and the protein is the soy protein. So those are the two mainly that's out there. Lastly, there is carbohydrates. So carbohydrates currently in the formula industry, they're usually provided in a form of corn syrup solids. Sometimes there's starch, so they put in there to kind of give it a little bit extra calories. So that's pretty much the three macronutrients that make up the formulas that's on the market for the most part. Okay, third, let's talk about at a glance all kinds of formulas and considerations and formulations that's out there. So this is not meant to be completely in-depth because there's so much that goes into each category of formulas and each brand. I wanted to give you guys the guidance so you know what you're looking for and when to use certain formula versus another. So the four main formulas is out there is your generic newborn formulas, then you have your premature formulas for premature babies, and you have your hydrolyzed formulas and soy formulas. So generic formulas are generally comes in 19 kilocalorie per ounce because that is most comparable to maternal breast milk. These generally work well for most babies. However, some babies may have some intolerance. So the babies who are intolerant to milk protein, such as babies have milk protein allergies, or they have missing an enzyme that cannot digest the lactose in the milk sugar, such as in the condition of we call galactosemia, these babies will tolerate better soy formulas. Now, sometimes you might see hydrolyzed formulas, and these are formulas that your pediatrician might recommend for you if your baby's having milk protein allergy or intolerance to other intact protein formulas. Because hydrolyzed formulas, as the name suggests, is hydrolyzed proteins. So the proteins is basically broken down into elemental amino acids. So therefore, it's easier to digest instead of having the intestine, the gut to break down all the proteins into its component and concentrate these components so babies can digest them easier. So that's hydrolyzed formula. And lastly, you may see formulas that are for premature babies. And so premature babies are smaller, their body demands more calories to grow because they're smaller, they're premature. So these formulas come in 22 kilocalories per ounce. So that is at a glance. Again, there's so many options, so much information out there. And if you guys have any other questions, I would definitely recommend that you bring this up with your pediatrician. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you guys found this session educational. If you have any comments, questions, please feel free to comment below. I love to hear from you. Until next Monday,